The fact of the matter is, if you start seeing a bunch of these underlying assets start doing financings, MSOS is going to fall.
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest Trade to Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales. Brand new week as we're midweek looking at the industry. Has the rally stalled? Is it done for now? Let's find out. We bring in the boys, Anthony Verrill, lead financial, or I should say, can I even talk today? Millennial investor and TD contributor, Anthony Verrill. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How's it going?
Good. TDR, lead financial writer, Benjamin A. Smith. Hope you're well. How are you, sir?
I am well. I am doing well. How are you?
Good. So you are the TD financial writer, Ben, and Anthony is the millennial investor. As I try to get
this
things
is one of the
straight
more
here.
awkward intros we've had yet.
It is what it is.
Did you have your coffee this morning?
What a guy.
Perhaps we should start again. What do you think? Or should we just
let it roll?
I think we should just roll. Let's just be us. All views of the Trade to Black podcast, the guests on this podcast, are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or guests as investment advice. And the views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Not investment advice. As I said off the top, we kind of predicted this last week where do we have enough staying power? We're obviously waiting to see the next news announcement on September 27th pertaining to SAFE. But it appears so far this week, Ben, that we've hit a pause button with this rally, don't you think?
I think so. And yes, we did touch on it over the past few podcasts. And that is, in my view anyway, I think a lot of it has to do with the news cycle. This is very news cycle driven, and we haven't had a lot of word on SAFE beyond a few days ago when we got word of the initial when the banking vote was going to happen in the Senate committee. And also, this is also retail driven, and we touched up on that a couple times, and that's important because such rallies where you rally over 100%, and we hit that mark, I believe, on Thursday. Right after the open, we are up over 100% on MSOs over the past 13 sessions. That type of price action cannot be sustained in what is mostly a retail and small fund driven rally.
Bingo.
Right. So that, to me, a pullback was inevitable. And here we are, so we pulled back about 20% off those highs. I don't think anything's technically broken yet. I guess we'll, parse the details later, but yeah, we're having a pullback on the lack of news flow and maybe slightly bearish headlines that, GOP committee chairman seeks to scale back some removing of federal marijuana for employee in the federal government. So, not really a huge bearish headline, but, little things like that niggle at you and say, okay, maybe some of the politicians aren't on board.
What do you guys think, though? Yes, we knew this pullback was going to happen, but not extreme like we've seen in the past. So what's this say about the industry, Anthony?
I don't think I could say it much better than what Ben just elaborated on.
Yeah.
I think he nailed it on the head. I think this is a retail driven rally. We're seeing it's getting a little bit of exhaustion. I think psychologically, the two financings that we're going to talk about here shortly probably shook a bunch of people. The fact of the matter is, if you start seeing a bunch of these underlying assets start doing financings, MSOS is going to fall.
Yeah.
They're binary. I think that shook some people yesterday. I know he's not too popular in the space right now, but I was talking to Spadafora on Friday afternoon. And the fact of the matter is a lot of people that are participating in this rally right now aren't bag holders. They're people that were patient with cash and deployed capital going into this rally. They're going to come off at some point and take the profit. Yeah. It's just a natural function of the trade. I'm not really too concerned. I don't think anything's fundamentally changed, but there are some things working against us right now.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned news cycle, Ben. There was some news cycle, as Anthony kind of alluded to. We start with Cannabis, who announced earlier this week they entered into a subscription agreement with institutional investors in a private placement deal offering gross proceeds of $25 million. The offering roughly 22.9 million units, set at a price of $1.09, which is a 22% discount from Friday's close of last week. So, I know current investors kind of spooked, but what's the alternative? Like, could that be the alternative? Like, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's the other factor at play that I omitted on the opening there, and Anthony's a million% correct. It was the financings, in my view, have put a halt on the rally, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons for that, beyond like the obvious dilution event of it, is the fact that some of these pricings are not what you'd call strong pricings. Like in a very bullish market, you have the pricings basically oftentimes where the last trade was. But the ones announced by Columbia Care and Canopy Growth, they're big discounts to market. Columbia Care was like
Hmm.
17.1%, and as you mentioned, Canopy Growth was what 22, 23% below the close price. So if you're an investor and you're looking at other MSOs out there that are that need capital, right? We won't name them, but that need capital, we know that those are most of them. The working capital is running low. You don't want to be caught holding the bag,
Yeah.
purchasing, making a new order, and initiating a position, only to have a day later, a week later, 2 weeks later, the price, an offering come out 20% below market. So that immediately is going to make you retrench a little bit and rethink your position and entry points. And I think that's what's happening here because of those two races.
So does this announcement at this price, without saying it, but really saying it, like this is something they had to do, correct?
I don't think it was something that Canopy had to do. I do think it was something that Columbia Care had to do. So to
Why
put
is
it into perspective, at the end of last quarter, Canopy Growth had $571 million in cash. This is a $25 million raise,
right?
with up to 50 million total. Columbia Care or Cannabis, whatever you want to call them after the name change this morning, they raised 25 million as well, and they had $37 million in cash at the end of the last quarter.
They had to do
So
that.
I would be they had to raise. Um, I don't understand where what the money does, how the money moves the needle for Canopy. As far as I'm concerned, unless they've burned through another 200 or 300 million since this earnings report, it seems to be an inconsequential amount of money.
I know. And at a 20% discount.
Yeah, I don't get it. Canopies, I don't get. Columbia Care, that fine. Raise the money, raise the capital. They're going to have to go through this application process in New York. So they're going to have capex spend in other places. I know they also want to retire the debt and shore up the balance sheet now that they're not going to be merging with Cresco. The Columbia Care raise, I'm fine with. Canopy had me completely scratching my head.
Yeah, 17% discount Columbia Care and Canopy's is 20.
Yeah.
Like you said, 37 million in the bank. They had to make that deal happen. But all in all,
Yeah.
what do you guys think of the name change? Columbia Care to now it's called the Cannabis Company Holdings Incorporated. I think that's going to be tough to shed the Columbia Care name.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a fan of Columbia Care, the name or the brand,
Yeah.
just because it feels like faux pharma, like they wanted to be like this pharmacy company. So I was never a big fan of it. But I mean, Columbia Care gets shit on a lot online when talking about like the strength of like some of the MSOs. I don't really tend to agree with that. I mean, they're in good markets. Like they've got 8 potential retail locations in New York. They're fortified in basically the entire northeastern corridor, as far as dispensaries go, and they've
Yeah.
got a Florida footprint.
Yeah.
I know the management team is not really liked, all things considered. I know that the merger was very well received, and there's a little bit of negative sentiment that it fell out. But I don't think Columbia Care or the Cannabis, or whatever you want to call them, it's not a bad looking asset on paper.
Yeah. Can't believe next week's are the end of the month as we head to Chicago for the Big Benzenga conference. But
I
27th.
just realized the conference is on the same day as the vote.
I know.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
I don't think
No.
so, but I was just seeing MJ Stock Trader said that he's booking a trip to DC to actually go and be in person at the vote, which I thought about would be cool to do. And then I thought about it, we're actually going to be in Chicago at Benzinga.
So while we're playing checkers, MJ Stock Trader is playing chess, being in Washington. Smart
Wait,
move
is
on
this
his
the
behalf.
Senate vote or is this the Senate committee vote or the actual Senate vote? Because if it's just the committee vote, that's just a formality. Like there's
It's the
not,
committee
I don't
vote.
even,
It's the markup's the committee vote.
okay, so
From my
it's
understanding.
kind of a formality. I don't see that as being a huge material event personally, but I guess it's good, good to be there. right?
So I guess that's the next question. Forward-thinking statements. Regardless of what's announced next week, you don't think there'd be much price action that pertains to it, Ben?
I think there could. I mean, especially if the drawdown continues, and God forbid, if we test the 725 area. I mean, I think that would be the big mango line in the sand where
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
want to see it go under about 710, especially, but call it the 725 area. A lot of the times, people think resistance is one price, but a lot of the times it's kind of like an area, right? So between like 710, 730 is where there's going to be, anticipated to be a lot of buying, I think, if you just look at the price chart. But yeah, if we go down the sevens or whatever, or we don't get a lot of strength, the Senate Banking Committee vote could definitely bounce the market. But do I think it's material other than that? No, I think it's like an assumed thing. I think the big battle
Yeah.
comes into when it gets past the Senate. If it gets that Senate vote, passes the Senate, filibuster proof, and all that, and then if it goes back to the House, and we'll see what happens there. I think that's where the big battle is, not
Yeah.
the Senate committee vote. That's formality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens, there's interest here. And as much as we're getting a pullback, I still think we're in a healthy position from where we were in mid-August.
Curaleaf is down 15%.
Oof.
Live by the retail, die by the retail, right? So, I mean, we were talking about this, and I hope people listened about what we were trying to kind of say under the hood there. But really good rally.
MSOS is down nine and a third points to about 8. It's at 8 flat right now.
People getting spooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no even reason to get spooked. Like you would expect on a day like today, you look at the headlines, maybe like some key senator came out and said this is not going through, or faced opposition. But really, the only negative news that I can tell is a GOP senator, I believe, came out and said that seeks to scale back the bill on removing federal marijuana employment barriers. So that's
You
really
wonder
it doesn't take much when.
No, if I had to guess, this is shorts fucking around and shaking people out.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, this is retail driven. If you're on the other side of this trade and you're in the institutional space and you've got a fund and you can short, it's not that hard to create downward pressure on these stocks, especially if you want to go on the thesis that people are naked shorting these names. With retail being exhausted and no other buy side liquidity coming in, this isn't that hard to probably engineer.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, this could get exacerbated potentially.
You wonder if there's any scare tactics involved in trying to get smarter
I'd be pressing
money
it down.
involved.
I mean, it's what I'd be doing right now. I'd be pressing these things down or trying to shake people out to get lower prices going into the vote and on the backside of the vote.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's the name of the game.
It's the way it works.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch to psychedelics now. I know we had the big news last week pertaining to MAPS, which clearly was groundbreaking for the industry. But even bigger news, I wouldn't say bigger, but equally big news, late Friday afternoon, Point 72, led by CEO and Chairman Steve Cohen, they made a big move in the industry where his firm purchased 18.95 million shares of Cybin, making a really big statement that Cybin could indeed have the best IP within this industry. So they have a phase 2 trial for DMT. Results are coming out before Christmas, right, Ben?
Yeah, I think on the psilocybin side for sure. I'd have to check up on
It's
yeah,
003. I'm pretty sure it's coming down the pike.
the
So
DMT or
Psilocybin.
psilocybin.
No, 003 psilocybin.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going to be material. I mean, those are phase 2 results. Granted, it is only phase 2, and usually we see, obviously, a more muted reaction to phase 2 results than phase 3 for obvious reasons. But it is anticipated, and a lot of people are very excited about this compound and what it can do. So it should move the stock. And if there's positive news, then they're head to phase 3, and that's always when investors start paying attention. In my estimation, once the results from phase 2 come out and they are good, then that's more like an eye opener in the market in a lot of ways.
big move to say the least. So if you're in between the ears of Steve Cohen, like what do you think he's seeing that maybe the average investor is not?
Well, I mean, the average investor and the guys that he has working for him at Point 72, I can tell you're not doing the same caliber of diligence in their decision making. I would assume that he's diligenced the company quite thoroughly,
Yeah.
and there's probably something that he saw there that had promise. I mean, I know that we were talking about in pre-production that maybe from a dollar perspective, it's a little bit light of a position for what 0.72 would probably be playing with. But then
Yeah,
again, they took down 8% of the company.
totally.
That's a healthy percentage. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to bet that they saw something in the research or they've modeled out something to where Cybin looks quite attractive on a go forward basis. I mean, they're some of the best.
Well, our podcast last week with Cody Chandra indicating like outside of Mindset, acquired by Otsuka late last month, many believed within the industry that small pharma had the best IP within the industry. So, with that acquisition, is this a company you're following closely this fall, Ben? Cybin?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because they have those results coming out, and I think those are material. And of course, the point 72 news that just is another reason why you want to follow the stock. It's almost like some people play trades off. Some people place in, do their investing decisions based on trades in Congress. So when you got a big institutional firm like point 72, people are just going to mimic that trade, and that we saw that big
Totally.
jump yesterday, right, up 38%. It's people basically going, even without doing their due diligence, going, okay, if it's good enough for them, a tier 1A institutional investor like Steve Cohen, it's got to
Yep.
be, they got to see something in the data. So just for that reason alone, I would watch it. And for the extra reason of the phase 2 data coming out, then it's definitely a watch, because once they get in, they can definitely purchase more if that data comes out, checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The announcement yesterday or earlier this week, Numinous basically is eliminating their Numinous Bioscience, getting rid of some of the cash burning assets. That was a move absolutely they had to make because they've got an earnings reports coming up just around the corner, and they got to make the necessary moves, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw the headlines. Or I'm a shareholder in the company. I mean, I know that you guys hold paper too. So I mean, it's good. It's lighter than expected. I mean, $1 million annually is
Not much.
it's a good starting point. I mean, I think we were
Yeah.
talking about what somewhere between 2 and 4 million a quarter in cuts for Numinous. So I mean, while it is a good starting point, it's nominal.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway for me, and you're right, it was nominal. $1 million annualized is
Yeah.
not much. However, to me, it was the fact that it probably signals a focus, at the very least, signals a focus that they want to focus on their core strategy, which is what's going to make or break them, the MDMA assisted therapy, now that the phase 3 results have happened. And it's no coincidence that, at least in my opinion, there's not a lot of coincidences in the capital market that they release this news after the results, post results. And I would assume, or I would think that that's one of the takeaways that they want people to have, is that they're focusing on the core business now, and they're shedding sort of non-performing, non-essential assets.
I think that's what
Yeah.
you're seeing more than ever in this industry now, focusing on core assets. We've interviewed Anthony Tennyson from Awaken. What is their core asset? Their phase 3 trial for alcohol use disorder. The acquisition, of the DMT side of trials for Cybin acquiring small pharma. Second generation drugs, Otsuka acquiring Mindset, and now Numinous, focusing primarily on their clinical model. You're really starting to see how the mergers and acquisitions landscape is starting to kind of unfold within this industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see, and I mean, I think the acquisitions that have happened over the last couple of weeks have been quality names. I mean, the combination of Cybin and Small Pharma gives them. I don't want to use the M word, but I mean, they've got pretty much monopoly on like deuterated DMT, if that is a feasible thing that gets all the way through, and they've got the IP. I mean, the acquisition of Mindset as well. They're complementary to Otsuka. It's great, and I mean, I think it's going to be a turning point that these companies start to specialize. I mean, we saw the mania when everybody went public, and I mean that's kind of like the playbook: jam as much shit in a pitch deck as you can, and make it look pretty
Yeah.
that you're gonna do all these things and overpromise, and a lot of the time underdeliver. Some of these companies though are starting to deliver, and I mean the ones that are still here are going to be the beneficiaries of that.
Are you surprised that Atai has not gotten involved in these mergers and acquisitions? They've got a lot of trials under their belt right now, but they've got to work. But I'm surprised that we haven't heard more from them.
I'm not
I
really
mean, I don't.
surprised. Like,
Yeah.
just because they have a lot on the go. I mean, they've already streamlined their portfolio a few months ago, where they took away some of their pipeline assets to focus on a few core ones. So, as it is, you could, they're the most capitalized company in the industry, but
Yeah.
they still will need more cash down the line if they want to bring their core portfolio compounds to market, right? So I don't know if they want to even bring on more and take on a bigger scope. I think they have enough on the go right now.
Well, regardless of where we're
Yeah.
at, we actually spoke with biotechnology analyst Elmer Piros, formerly of EF Hutton, which we're posting actually tomorrow. He had some interesting to say, Anthony, like, think of what's happened the last 30 days. The share purchase agreement with Compass, the MAPS data, the acquisition, obviously, of Cybin, and now the 18.95 million shares bought. Growth of an industry has happened quite a bit in the last 30 days. And when you look at the list of investors that took part in that agreement, good place, I think, for the industry as we merge more into the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, and I mean, at the same time, it's all the companies that we've considered household names throughout.
Yeah.
I mean, those are literally the list of companies that we've identified, we've engaged with, and that we've covered since the sector emerged. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
I don't know about a tie. I mean, I don't want to see a tie merge with anybody unless they have a ton of cash.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we talk to a lot of people around the industry, and I don't think we've spoken to anybody yet that believes that they have enough cash to get through commercialization of everything on their plate. Meanwhile, that's the messaging from a tie.
Yeah.
But I mean, time will tell.
Yeah. I was reading a story on the weekend too. Tons of Europeans buying property in Florida. That real estate market just remains red hot.
I've got people calling me right now trying to buy my house.
Do you?
Like literally cold calling me. It's like, are you interested in selling? I'm like, here's my price. If you want it, cash, quick close, I'll give you the keys.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in negotiating, and I don't want a penny less.
Toronto market's been hit pretty hard too.
But that
Florida
market's
market's been
gone, dude.
it's crazy what's happened in Toronto for the past 20, 25 years, but
The price of real estate in Toronto and Vancouver is nuts.
it's nuts.
I find
Like,
if you
I know
live in
one
a
of my
good area, though, those are keeping up well. Like I know I can only speak
Yeah,
to
I'm
my area.
sure.
Pretty decent single detached. You got a decent sized lot because they don't make those anymore. If you just get like middle class, you get like 35 by 80 lots now. So the ones
Can
with
you
like the
get
original
anything?
lots and from the 70s and 80s builds and less than that are actually
Yeah.
keeping up pretty good.
Can you get anything for $1 million?
Not much.
You can, but even like it's weird. Like even a co-op, right? Somebody alert me to this fact this weekend that there's a co-op in our place with like detached, and you don't have any garages or anything like that. Like a regular co-op
Yeah.
compound. There's some detached homes in this co-op that are going for $1 million. Like no
Huh.
garage, 800 square,
No,
900 square
no
feet.
garage.
No.
Yeah,
No.
900 square feet, no fenced backyard. Like it's
What?
crazy. Yeah, yeah, it's
Who
unbelievable.
can afford? I mean,
And in
who can
another
afford?
story, New York City is seeing the biggest homelessness report since the Great Depression, which was on Bloomberg earlier this week. But
We didn't see any when we were there. We all made
I
comments
know
about
I was pleasantly surprised when I was in New York early. We were there early August, but it seemed like a different place from when we were there before in last December. But you know,
I
actually, even
mean,
Rob Seacrest from Polaris, he was down at Union Square in San Francisco 3 weeks ago, and he's like, it is cleaned up completely. San
yeah.
Francisco has.
I mean, the two headlines circulating around with the immigration crisis is New York and Italy. And I mean, those are two places I've frequented and cultures I know pretty well. And they're not the kind of people that are going to sit there and just let things go to shit. Um, they're not going to allow mass just waves of immigrants come in and just set up camp.
I just,
So
And
I mean,
that's
I'm
the
very curious to
dynamic
see how this.
that's the dynamic that's
Yeah,
keeping our market up. It's like, it just waves of immigrants, and a lot
yeah,
of them, 2, 3 families live in a house. It's not
I
uncommon to
know.
see,
really.
detached, 4 cars in the driveway and like a taxi or two on the driveway, on the right in front of the house on the curb.
There's no
So I mean,
inventory.
That's
What's
that's
that
that's
say for home ownership for millennials? Like it's crazy, but biggest transformation of wealth from baby boomers to millennials is starting to happen already, and might be in a situation where millennial takes over the house and mom and dad have to live there until they pass. But where are you going to go? All right,
I don't
big
think Gen
takeaway.
Xers really are going to like us all that much because they're really getting shafted in a lot of ways, and I hate to see it. Like Gen Xers, especially even millennials, early millennials, they're getting the raw end of the deal, and that's just the byproduct of the economic cycle that they happen to grow up in, right?
100%.
Well, yeah, I mean,
The
look at
system's broke.
2008. 2008 still reverberating around.
Yeah.
I mean, then COVID. It's funny because what was it? There was an article on Twitter, I think it was 2 days ago, that I saw that fast food workers are now demanding that they make minimum of $80,000 a year. So, but
Chad,
okay,
you
but
got to
hold
pay me
on,
more, buddy.
hold on. So my first reaction was, "Fuck that! Like this sounds ridiculous." But if you go back to before the pandemic, fast food workers were probably making what, $40,000 a year,
If that,
around
you're
there.
making like
Okay,
$15 an
but
hour.
at the
$15
but
an
at the
hour.
same but at the same
Inflation.
time in the United States, post COVID, we doubled the money supply. So technically, every dollar pre-pandemic is now worth 50 cents.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you want to just look at it in a black and white numbers perspective, saying that they need $80,000 to live and not live below the poverty line,
Makes sense.
it probably makes sense.
The
Is it
thing
going
is,
to
they're not
happen?
referencing the Fed. That's the only thing. It
No, no,
does
no,
make
no,
sense, but
no. But
they have no
at the
idea.
same time, though, every U.S. dollar literally got chopped in half.
Yeah.
There's 2 times as many since.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. So big
people need to get
takeaway.
paid more.
Big takeaway here as we wrap this up. Rallies on pause, but you think there's more rally to come, or is that still skeptical up the air?
My own comments personally, I think 725 is the line. That's 710 to 730 area. If we stay above that, we're in position to rally. I think even if we don't get there, I think the market is headline driven, as we've been saying. So,
Yeah.
Bad headline, it goes down, or buyers retrench. Good headline, euphoria can come back, and euphoria can come back at any point in the market right now. We're still digesting the two raises that happened, private placements that happened yesterday, right? And that really, again, spooked the market because no one wants to be playing musical chairs and buying at the top and then, waking up to a 15-20% haircut the next day, right? So that was just like the beacon, big shiny beacon saying, okay, let's put a pause on this. And I really think it's more with the volumes just retracting the last couple of days very noticeably.
Yeah.
I think it's just a buyer's retrenchment more than anything. I don't think this is like some conspiracy with short sellers or whatever. And when there's no volume there, that's when like the algos can grind things down. You can grind things down on the sell side,
which they're
doing. Yeah, they're good at that. They're good at that, right? So they play the game and get things lower. They sell and short a little bit at the the 10 level, 950 level, and make money on the downside, and then they'll juice it up again when there's news.
All right, gents, let's get back to watching this. I hope you enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think what we're providing information is helpful? Let us know any comments that you want to know, what your feeling is about the overall rally. Are we going to pause? What to expect next? We'd love to hear from you. Anthony, Ben, enjoy the rest of your day. And Anthony, I know you're off. Where are you heading to later this week?
Vail.
Nice.
Vail for the week.
Nice. Into Chicago.
You're not going during winter, or is there already a snowpack there?
Oh, it's beautiful out there in the summer.
Yeah.
I'm going hiking, and I've got one of my wife's nephews or cousins, well, I don't know what it is, wedding out there. So we're going a couple days before.
Get some pictures with some nice mountain lions.
I prefer not to see those when I'm hiking.
Make good entertainment.
Hey,
sure it would.
That's where you could use Cody, right? Cody Chandra. He's a shooter from the last podcast, so maybe you need him. Bring him out there.
Yeah, I'll bring some of my guns with me.
That's wild.
Out to
an 8-foot wall,
Colorado.
mountain lion jumps over the wall, snags a German Shepherd, and gone. That's insane.
I mean, have you seen the videos of jaguars that literally
I know.
kill a gazelle, like 100-pound gazelle, put it in its jaws, and then climb a tree?
I know.
I mean, cats are. Those are my favorite animals. Like, I think they're just fascinating. Big cats.
Leopards.
Yeah.
Leopards and jaguars. Those
when
things.
Jaguars go hunt and pull crocodiles out of the water. I mean, that's a respectable thing to be able to do.
Those are not the real crocs.
Oh, there's
There's some, yeah, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like they're killing some decent sized crocs, but when you see
Yeah.
rest in
I can
peace,
go. I can go to the Everglades. We can go find some 15-foot alligators if you want it next time you're down here.
rest in peace, Steve Irwin. Guy was a legend, but man, he'd rip up those push lawnmowers and put them up to the water, and it would come a 25-foot, 4,000-pound dinosaur.
Prefer not to see those animals.
No. All right, gents. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Talk soon.
Take care. What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask that you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.